I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Jules Sains. That is my guest, Guy Haines. We're here to talk some Dark Shadows. Guy, man, welcome. When did you first get into Dark Shadows?
Um, okay. Back in the spring, early summer of 1966, I distinctly remember seeing a TV commercial for it had a huge mansion, and this beautiful girl came out and was walking along a, a, a stone walkway, and the narrator was saying, "This is the new governess of Collins House." I'm not getting it exactly. And she walked down, and she was standing on a cliff, and it said, "Legend has it that there are two women have lost their lives on Widow's Hill. Legend has it a third. Will it be the governess? Tune in June 27th for Dark Shadows." And I said, that looks very interesting. I think I will tune in. That looks good. And you know what? I have a memory of that commercial, but I don't have a memory of tuning in, which I think I did because when I finally saw the first episode many years later, it was very familiar to me, but I don't think it hooked me. So a year into the show, August 1967, I was with my older cousin, and he knew I liked vampires, and he said, "Did you know there was a vampire on a soap opera?" I said, "Really? Which one?" He said, "Dark Shadows. His name's Barnabas." I said, "Wow, I've got to watch that." So the very next day I tuned in. It was the episode where Barnabas was talking to Julia and in the drawing room of the old house, and he had that weird smoking jacket on. Of course, I only had a black and white set in those days. I didn't know it was blue, but anyway, he was talking about how he hated Burke Devlin because he reminded him of his uncle Jeremiah, and then he ripped Jeremiah's picture out of the family album, and the opening voiceover said, "Tonight, a bargain has been made, a bargain between the living and the dead." And as soon as the commercial came on, I went dancing out into the kitchen, dancing around the table. My aunt, my grandmother were here, and I was saying, "A bargain has been made, a bargain between the living and the dead." Of course, they looked at me like I was crazy. So that's how I got into Dark Shadows.
That's cool. That's cool. Now
Sorry.
no reason to be sorry. Who is your favorite character on Dark Shadows?
Well, if I had to pick one, it would be Dr. Julia Hoffman. I I just there's something about her that I just love. I mean, there's been many words written on why people identify with her or like her, but I just felt like she was so loyal to Barnabas, and she was so usually she was on top of things. Of course, sometimes she would fall to pieces, but uh, excuse my brother there. Uh,
Okay.
and but yeah, it was Julia. I used to have the top four. Now I have a top five, but Julia is the number one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, man.
Oh, and I got this at the festival. I actually commissioned it before the festival. When Mark Maddox, wonderful artist, Rondo Award winner, uh, did I asked him to put two characters, my two favorite characters in it for me, and this is what he drew for me. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah, nice. That looks nice. Sorry.
Yeah. And
Nice. Mrs. Johnson. And she's the first person who sees Barnabas visually
yeah.
answering the doors. I mean, Clarice Blackburn. What did you think of her character, Mrs.
Oh,
Johnson?
I loved Abigail. I loved Mrs.
Yeah.
Johnson. She was the only voice of sanity in the house, and no one paid any attention to her. I remember when she saw Adam by the fountain, on the terrace, and she said it was a man, and then she goes, "No, it was a monster."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
There's
sure
no,
Julia said, "Come, Mrs. Johnson, let me give you a sedative."
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when you, as you watched the show, you saw the advertisement, and you heard about Barnabas. What did you think of? Because they get into Barnabas's origin story. and there's I've mentioned this before. There's very little to no build up to Angelique, which was shocking when you think of the character. I mean, you hear a woman weeping in a mausoleum, and it's actually Dr. Julie Hoffman who's in the mausoleum. And then you hear a wicked woman laughing, which is basically the hint, hey, there's more to this than what's going on. What did
Yeah.
you think of that? Like because throughout Dark Shadows, there had been like at times not really big build up to certain characters.
Yeah. I never thought of that. I know what the episode you're talking about when Julia's locked in the mausoleum and the blood oozes out of the tombstone, the stone there, and there is an evil woman's laugh. And I never really thought about that deeply. It could have been Angelique. At the time, Barnabas was also using those strange mystical powers that he said he had, and I thought maybe Barnabas impersonated Dr. Woodard, so maybe he was trying to impersonate Sarah, or giving the impression to Julia that Sarah was an evil monster. I don't know. But yeah, never that could have been Angelique though. Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah, yeah. This is my wife Julie, who
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Nice,
so,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Has she got
but
a monster shirt on there?
no, she's got
No,
no.
it's
This
just my nightgown.
this is
Oh.
her nightgown. So, but yeah,
I got a monster in my hand though.
Oh.
Cat.
oh my gosh, yeah, the kitty. Yeah,
Oh.
but
She likes to play rough with me.
now you've been to many of these conventions. What did you think of the 60th?
I I knew, I know Jim Pearson well. I know Mary O'Leary well. I know Nina Johnson well, who was doing the ticketing, and we didn't know what to expect because this one was different. It was essentially just a 2 day, if you want to count the Sunday, the visiting the mansion, but it was kind of compressed.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of the panels that were half an hour, if it would have been a 3 day, they would have been an hour long. Um, and then we were expecting like 800 people. I think we had just over 800, and we a lot of the volunteers that we had in the olden days have either passed away or they just wanted to come and enjoy the festival and not volunteer. So we had a lot of new volunteers, and we were a little worry about new volunteers, but the volunteers did a wonderful job. I mean, Mary O'Leary just sings their praises, and I saw them in action myself, and they helped everything go very, very smoothly. I didn't really see many hiccups at all. Uh, Jim was late to welcome everybody at the very beginning, but that's kind of par for the course. But I had a wonderful time. Um, it was wonderful to meet new friends, to see a lot of the old ones that I haven't seen for many years, and the enthusiasm of a lot of the of all of the actors was wonderful. It was just overall, it was I really enjoyed it. I didn't want it to end.
nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah.
Now, when you watch the TV show, when they went back in time to 1795, were you shocked to learn how much, because Lewis Edmonds is a great actor, how
Mhm.
much Joshua Collins was not a nice man?
No. Yeah, it's funny when you say that. It made me think of the comic books by Dynamite. There was a mini series called Dark Shadows. I forget now, but they depicted Joshua, and I said he's not mean enough to Ben when in the comic book he's not mean enough. But yeah, I he was Joshua projected this coldness and this strength. I guess he was a veteran of the Revolutionary War, and very proud that he built his dynasty. Well, I guess he inherited it, but he built upon it. And I loved the performance. I think I'm trying to think if Louis once they was once asked who his favorite character was, and I believe he said Joshua. I believe he said. Now I think he loved playing Roger, of course. I think he loved playing Edward, but I think he said Joshua was his favorite character, and he and Jonathan loved the scene where uh, Joshua finds out that his son is a vampire, and they argue around the coffin, and they both love that scene a lot. It is a very heartrending uh, scene, and but yeah, I loved Louis. I knew him personally. He was a character. He was a dear man.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. What do you have a favorite convention that you went to with Dark Shadows? Is there one that's special to you?
Hmm. Um. Gosh, they all blend together for me. I I have to say maybe the first one, and that's weird because we only had Ron Sproat as a guest. We didn't have any of the actors, but it was just being around other. And this is the weirdest thing. A lot of people have learned this and have said this. Just being around the other fans that have this passion for Dark Shadows is maybe the best thing about the festivals. I mean, it's wonderful to meet the actors and get their autographs and listen to their stories, but just to be, around other people that love the show just like you do, I think.
Yeah.
So, it was a long time coming. I live in this little town of 400 people, and I didn't have really anybody that watched it with me during its first run. So to have run into a bunch of people at a festival that love the show like me, that was in my memory, that was, I guess, maybe my favorite festival.
Because it's always fun to be around fans
Yeah,
and
yeah.
hear what their experiences are too with the show. Because you're going to hear my dog bark here in a second. uh, did you have a favorite character, time travel character? Was there like Angelique, Competefe? Was there?
All that spanned the centuries.
Yeah,
Um, Maybe Quentin.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. I loved how they, brought him into the 20th century. They brought Barnabas in. Of course, a vampire is immortal, but then I mean, Quentin was everything. First, he was a ghost, then he was a
Yeah.
zombie, then he was a Dorian Gray type, a werewolf, and then he was an immortal. So,
I do have a fun question for you. Got what is it with the Collins family and marriages? They seem to just like go by the wayside.
oh, you mean they don't last?
Yeah, they don't last.
Well, I guess that's the idle rich. I guess they get bored with their spouses. Maybe. Of course, in the case of the Collins family, they don't they don't stray too far to find another partner. That's why they call them incestors.
That's true. That's true. Oh my
That
gosh.
that classic blooper by Louis
Yeah.
is just it was like a Freudian slip.
But it's still good though too, because he catches it. He says it, then he catches himself
You,
saying it.
you know, once upon a time, after about 4 or 5 festivals, we found that the audience members asked the actors the same questions that they had been asked the previous year. And I said to Jim Pierce, let's do something different. Let's have a mock awards ceremony, kind of like the MTV Music Awards, and have categories for the actors. Let the actors sit in the audience and have category, like say best scream, and then you play on the three of the characters screaming. Julia would probably get it because I love her screams. But anyway, for Louis Edmonds, I was and it was going to be set up that they would get these awards. I mean, it was set up, that Louis was going to get the award for best recovery from a flubbed line because he could do that so well. It's just like normal everyday speech. We all kind of stumble sometimes over our words, and he was a master at just making it sound like so now the scene where he had the accident toward the beginning of the show, the car accident, and he says it was about 100 miles from the 100 miles 100 yards from and so yeah, he is a master at that.
I mean, but people do make it kind of felt real in a sense when you're watching it because people do make mistakes when talking.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I have to tell you though, Louis did not appreciate that sentiment. We tried to explain to him how we appreciated his ability to do that, and he said, "I just don't understand. I don't like it. They keep playing our bloopers over and over again." And poor guy, he didn't get it. He wouldn't say anything like at a festival or anything, but he said, "Oh, now they've got a VHS with our bloopers on it." And he said, "That's all we need."
No, we're giving you this award because we appreciate how easy it was for you to recover.
Yeah, yeah. I think eventually he would have understood, but Jim never followed through. I suggested that, and he never did it. And then years later, he said, "Guy, I saw a Star Trek um, like that with the mock awards, and now he said, now I get what you were trying to say, but yeah, it's too late."
So, I mean, we all know how Julia had like sometimes she would use a crystal, sometimes she would use a medallion to hypnotize people. I
Yeah.
mean, do you think we'll ever get somebody to hypnotize somebody else to get a Barnabas NECA action figure?
We'd have to do that to Jim. I My friend Gene Barney has been telling me, NECA is doing these wonderful figures of the Hammer, Christopher Lee Dracula and Peter Cushing, Dr. Frankenstein, and I've approached Jim, and he seems to think that we've done the dolls, and he doesn't think that they would sell well, but I'm going to keep plugging away. Gene just sent me something the other day. Somebody commented on, they were talking about NECA, and they were saying, when are we going to see Dark Shadows figures by NECA? Just like, I think there's a movement
Yeah.
uh, to do it. So what I should have done is approached Dan Curtis's daughter there at the festival and say, "Can you give licensing approval for NECA figures?" She wouldn't have known what I was talking about probably, but
If anybody is watching this, tell them.
yes.
So,
Yeah, write a letter to Jim, an email, send an email to Jim Pearson.
uh,
He's on Facebook. You can, even if you're not a friend, you can send him a Facebook message.
hold on, I have something to show you. Hold on.
Okay.
So, well, you'll be able to see this with my background on, but this
Mm,
that for
Freddie.
those who wondered how good of a job NECA does,
Yes.
that's how good
Freddie.
this is, Freddie.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Upstairs I've got Christopher Lee Dracula,
Yeah,
and they do a wonderful job. There's so much. I mean, I was just looking at my werewolf that, they released Barnabas, Angelique, and the werewolf, and they're not they're nice, but
all right.
they're not 100% likeness of Jonathan Frid and Laura. But yeah, let's just keep pushing. Yep.
Something's got to give.
Yeah.
But in a good way, I think too. If they do this, I think you get Barnabas, Angelique, Quentin, the werewolf, Count Patofe. I mean, you could have a whole slew of Dark Shadows NECA figures to
Yeah.
collect. I mean,
Well, yeah, you're right. Um, they would have to start with Barnabas and Quentin and
yep.
Angelique. and then probably maybe Josette or Maggie. And I'd like to see a Julia, but I don't think that they could be convinced. But Patafi would be
Yeah.
one that a lot of people would want. Yeah, and Nicholas Blair, maybe. You know,
I think if when you look at a great example is like Patrick's bus that he was showing off at the 60th.
I was just going to bring those busts up.
Yeah,
They're
good.
fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, that he had them on display out there, and I heard him on the train on his way home the other night on your podcast saying that
Yeah,
he was going to probably have some for sale at the at Lyndhurst at Halloween.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he first showed them to me and Alan when we were before we were recording a video. I forget which one it was we were recording, but because he's on here all the time.
Yeah.
But he had showed them to me and Alan. I think when he showed what was it, Professor Stoves, I was like, that looks awesome.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely. I think that's what grabbed me to your podcast actually when I saw that and I said, well, I'm gonna have to tune into this podcast more often.
I don't blame you, man. I'm like, I don't want to watch me. I want to watch the bust.
Yeah.
Like I'm not here for me anymore.
He had Stokes, he had Magda,
Yeah,
he had Nicholas going like that.
yeah.
Judah Zachary with his head on his body. And then out there he had I forget he had a couple ones that he didn't have here, but yes, I'm all for that. I mean, I don't know, I have to ask Patrick if Jim stopped by his table and saw those. Jim
Yeah.
and
I'll
if
I'll ask him for you, and then I'll see if he'll message you. It's under a different. Now, I don't want to reveal that here, but I'll message him for you and see if he'll respond. Because I sent the YouTube thing to him, and he said,
yeah,
"Hey, who sent this?" So I said, "Guy Haines." That he said, "Oh, cool." The video you sent to me, which was awesome, dude.
I was, you know what, I don't know how to get a hold of him, and I have to tell you, and I'm going to talk to Patrick right now. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I met him at Seaview actually a few years ago, but it was one I had gone to bed on the last night, and my friend Madeline was sitting down in the lobby, and it was probably about 1 in the morning, and I was just getting ready to put my CPAC mask on when Madeline texted me. She said, "I'm down in the lobby with Patrick." So I got out of bed and went down and talked to him for about 2 hours. He's fascinating. I've got a great respect and awe for Patrick.
When we get done here, stick around. Stick
Okay,
around. When we're done recording here, stick around. I'll have a surprise for you.
okay.
It concerns our buddy Patrick. But but I will say, here's the question for you. What did you think of Count Patofi? Here's this powerful mage.
Yeah. I I just one one thing yeah, he was probably the most powerful villain on the show, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
And yet he had his weaknesses and his fears. But um one thing I like about Dark Shadows is the back and forth, the the seemingly limitless power of one person, and then they find his weakness, and then they beat it back. But Patafi, yeah, like many fans, would have loved to see him appear in the 20th century at some point,
yeah,
or maybe even 1840. Thayer David was just so wonderful. It's like that was one of my biggest um, sadnesses was sitting at one of the early festivals, and he had passed a few years before that, and knowing that we would never have him there telling his stories, because I'm sure he had a lot of stories.
yeah. What what did you think of we mentioned Magda before, but I mean Sam Hall's wife, Grayson Hall. Grayson Hall got Sam Hall onto the show as a writer.
Uh-huh.
What did you think of Magda? Completely different character that she
Oh
got.
yeah, and she mastered that accent so perfectly. So did Thayer. I remember day of 1897, and him throwing knives. Too bad Grayson wouldn't allow him to throw the knives at her in that episode. But yes, I love Magda, and she did say at one point that Magda was her favorite character on Dark Shadows. So um I she was multifaceted, and she wasn't perfect. She accidentally put the curse on Quentin at the wrong time, not realizing that he had children, which were her niece and nephew. But yeah, she was a wonderful character, and I would have liked to seen her reappear somewhere along the line too. I think you hear her disembodied voice right after they come back to the present, but you don't see her anymore.
Yeah, you do hear her. Dr. Julia Hoffman hears her.
Yeah,
That's what's fun about it.
yeah.
And she keeps hearing other people too. She's not like it's
We,
like a trip for her, like
you,
mentally.
I'm hoping that this new animated series might tackle things like that, like have an episode with Magda and especially Patafi. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Uh, I'll have to bring you on with Patrick. Maybe if you're free over the weekend or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe I'll tell you what, we'll tackle an 1897 episode.
Mm-hmm.
And how about coming on Saturday with us?
Sure. Yeah. What time? Saturday I usually Zoom with my Dark Shadows
Oh,
friends,
okay.
but I can come on. You just let me know what time, and I'll
What time do you Zoom with? Because I don't want to like interrupt.
we we Zoom from like about 7 to 10.
How's 10:30 like the way we're doing now?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, cool. Because Patrick
Okay.
and Alan, they're usually a little late to these things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick an episode and send it to you. Send it to Alan, Patrick, out, and let them know you're coming. That'll be cool. That'd be cool. To have all three of you on here and talk some DS.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of fun.
I don't
What,
think I'll be able to keep up with Patrick.
none of us are. It's okay. But he says stuff. I'm just like, hey
Yeah.
man, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm not a great host. I'm just like, because
Oh.
I laugh at what he said. I'm like, because it
I
shocks me.
I don't know his background. I don't know, I don't know how old he is. Not that I'm
Right.
allowed to know that, but I imagine he was. Well, I don't even know. Is he an original fan? Did he run home from school or?
I'll let him answer that. He's a really
Yeah,
cool guy, though. He's a really
yeah.
nice dude. But yeah. Now, one of my first favorite original character was Victoria Winters, because I watched this show from the beginning when it ran on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Uh-huh.
I did not watch Dark Shadows in its original run. My apologies to everybody who did. Uh, so, but very interesting because they started off with Ghost and stuff too, but then the Phoenix came. That was their first real monster. What did
Hmm.
you think? Did you, because you see Diana Malay's character reappear in 1897, what did you think of them bringing her back?
Oh, well, see, when I first saw that, I never had seen the original Phoenix episodes.
Oh,
The only way I know anything about a Phoenix was from 16 magazine, the whole true
oh,
story of Dark Shadows, and then somebody wrote something, and then the next issue somebody wrote a letter of comment and corrected them and said that, Laura Collins was Roger's wife and she was a Phoenix. So I only knew that, and then when she appeared in 1897, I figured out, oh, this she must have been on the show before. But I loved it. I loved that she was this foil for Angelique,
yeah.
and she was trying to get both of her children to go to the fire with her. But and I love Diana Malay. She's like our spiritual Dark Shadows mother. She
Yeah.
was very motherly, and cared about the fans. She had a forceful personality, and a lot of people took her comments the wrong way. But I'll give you an example real quick. I Before I knew her well, she was sitting next to Cy Thomas off at a festival, and I wanted to take a picture of Cy Thomas. So I was waiting for the person that was talking to Cy to get away so I could get a good picture of him. And she saw me with the camera, and she said, looked at me, and she said, "Well, I'm posing. When are you going to take the picture?" So I had to take the picture of her when I wanted to take it of Cy Thomas. So, of course, in those days, you had film, and it was my last picture on the roll. So. But I love taking a picture of her too.
That's classic. That's classic. I mean, but hey, you got a picture of Diana Blay there,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, why not?
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool, guy. That's awesome, man. What was the first piece of meat? Do you remember the first piece of media you ever collected, like for Dark Shadows?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I think it was a soap opera magazine. And
Cool.
I thought, what if my friends see me buying a soap opera magazine? And then the teen magazines.
Yeah.
Of course, then I started collecting the gum cards and the in the gum card packets, the fold up posters from 1897,
Yeah.
the comic books, of course. And but the first one that I picked up was a daytime TV magazine or something, and I remember cutting out a picture of Jonathan Frid. It wasn't Barnum, it was Jonathan, and carrying it in my wallet.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
I said this at the festival on my panel. I said, and this just occurred to me uh, a couple weeks ago. People, I used to feel like maybe embarrassed or a little ashamed that I have built my life, a part of my life, a big part of my life around a soap opera. And then I said this at the festival. I said, well, some people, their lives are changed by a song that they hear or a book that they read, or what's wrong with a soap, a soap changing your life. So, I make no
There-
apologies nowadays.
And you don't have to.
No.
That's it, man.
Especially since there's hundreds of thousands of other fans out there, and that it's not I don't feel so alone anymore. In the early days of the festivals, we thought we were a dying breed. We thought this show won't catch on with today's generation, and boy, we were happy to be wrong.
I mean, as when I didn't watch Dark Shadows till I was 13, guy. You know, what I mean, I was a 13-year-old young man,
Uh-huh.
and the things I was watching on TV in the 90s were very edgy. And because I grew up a wrestling fan too.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And when I watched Dark Shadows, I'm like, man, this is just as edgy as the stuff I'm watching now.
Cool. And
Like that's what I still feel. It's like, man, if this were on, like, because I knew it was an old show. I'm like, man,
uh-huh.
if this were like on with those other shows, I don't know if I'd watch wrestling. Like this was, because that's how into it I was. Because my mom's like, because by the time I watched Dark Shadows, I'd watched like up to that date, what was all the Halloweens to that date, all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Friday the
Right.
13th, the Hellraisers, the Universal Monsters. And then I come downstairs. My mom knew I was watching something. She goes, "What are you watching now?" I said, "I'm watching a show called Dark Shadows. You ever hear of it?" And again, Barnabas had not arrived yet.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, "Did the vampire show up yet?" And I'm like, "Did the what?"
So you didn't read anything about it. You were just watching it cold,
Yep.
without knowing any. Isn't that my hat is off to you?
I,
Um,
I knew of somebody told me of a website at that time, a friend of my
mhm.
mom's. And he said, "Hey, there's a website." And I did not want to visit the website while I was watching because I didn't want to, like, so I wanted to watch it cold, like, without knowing too
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
And then when I got near the end, like near enough to where it's like, okay, which was initially it was darkshadows.com. For those
Hmm.
who don't remember that, it was very old. It was a very like where it gave the characters background and stuff like that. It gave like their biography, which was
Uh-huh.
really cool. And then I started because I'm trying to think where I was. I think I was right at the end of 1897. That's when I wanted to look at the website. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm pretty far along. And then I read the website and I'm like, this is cool. I wish, and I kind of regretted not visiting it sooner. You know what I mean? But
Uh-huh.
I wanted to watch a lot of the show before I did.
Did you say you watched it from day one on Sci-Fi or?
Yeah, it was on. It was the. I just caught it. Victoria Winters' face. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see the train barreling past until late, until I bought the first DVD. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, this woman's on a train. Who is she? Then she says who she, and she's doing this narration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, well, I know she got on this train somehow, right? So
Hmm.
she's talking. And then I see Mitch Ryan, who I knew from Lethal Weapon. I knew him from
Oh
Lethal
yeah.
Weapon. You know,
Uh-huh.
I'd seen Lethal Weapon. He was the villain in it.
Yeah.
Him and Gary Busey. I'm like, wait, there's Mitchell Ryan. What's he doing here? He's on this show too. And then I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay. And that the line he gave really like shook me in a good way. Like he said, "Welcome to the beginning and end of the world, Miss Winters."
That's a classic line.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, I want to watch this now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was him and her that really made me want to watch it. They're dynamic. And then you got Joan Bennett, you get Louis Emmons, and Joan Bennett. I had never seen any of her movies prior to this. I had
Mm-hmm.
not. I didn't start watching the her movies until after I knew about her on Dark Shadows. They
Uh-huh.
said, "Well, she's from older movies," and I said, "Mom, what kind of movies was Joan Bennett in?" She goes, "Now you ask me." She was in some gangster movies. I'm like, really? Okay. So I mean, if I didn't like always want to rely on my mom either because she
Mm-hmm.
watched stuff. Her parents. So I'm getting off on a tangent here, but her parents, my grandmother. This is where I get my love from wrestling from. Grew up a wrestling fan. My grandfather grew up a Western fan, and he showed me all these classic westerns and stuff. And for example, he showed me was it Nevada Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And in this scene, there's a guy skinning this girl. I'm sure I don't know if you've ever seen it. And my grandmother walked in, his wife, and she goes, "Ray, what are you letting that boy watch?" And she goes, "Well, his mother let him watch Halloween. I can let him watch this." Hey, he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That was Steve McQueen in that
that
one.
was Steve
Yeah.
McQueen and Nevada Smith. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I that's the first Steve McQueen movie I think I ever saw was that. And then I watched The
Uh-huh.
Blob like a couple. I did not see the first Blob movie I ever saw was the remake, was the '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sorry.
Were you blown away by Joan Bennett being in Suspiria?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
here's
quite different than Elizabeth, wasn't
yeah.
it?
But I mean, here's the thing. That's the fascinating thing. Donald Pleasance being in like playing Blofeld and not Sam Loomis, you know what I mean? It's like the same thing. It's like these actors play these different characters.
Yeah.
It's you're so fascinated with the range that they bring to every character they've
Yeah.
ever played.
Yeah.
I mean, so I do. That's the one thing I know. Jonathan Frid, because I had Will McKinley and Nancy Kersey on here. That Jonathan, he wanted to go back to the stage, and I kind of wish, he would have stayed in film a little bit,
Yeah.
so we could have saw. I know he was in another movie, like after he was in the first Oliver Stone movie,
Yeah.
but I wish we'd have got to see a little more of him on the silver screen.
Absolutely. I think in the 70s, it wasn't until like the past, maybe the beginning of the 21st century that actors got in there and they did such a good job with one movie. They were able to take another movie, a completely different character, and say, "I want to play this part," and they proved themselves that they could do it. And at the time, I think Jonathan, he just I don't know if it would have helped if he got another agent or whatever, but he just couldn't get out of the being typecast, just like kind of like Vincent Price, you know.
Yeah.
But Vincent Price proved himself in a lot of earlier movies that he could play, dramatic non-horror parts. So, but as he Azalea wasn't to be, but I did enjoy Jonathan, his one-man shows and his. I never got to see him do Shakespeare, but I saw Arsenic and Old Lace, so
Cool.
he did comedy there. So
That's awesome, man. What was it like getting to see him on stage?
oh, it was wonderful. Uh, he would he would invite us to his apartment prior to the festivals, a small group of us he would to try out his show, on a trial audience, and uh, he once he started, he was into it. There was no, winking at the audience or anything. He was totally into the characters and into the stories, and uh, it was just, I feel so blessed to have been able to see him so many times in his different shows and um, I'm sorry, Arsenic and Old Lace. I
Yeah.
would have loved to seen him in some of the other things that he did too. But he one of his last roles he reprised was Barnabas. I just put this up on
Yeah.
my Facebook page as they had a coffin, and I've been told that this was Jonathan's idea. The coffin was Jonathan's idea. It wasn't like Jim Pearson's or somebody that we're going to get a coffin. We're going to ask Jonathan to get in it. I think Jonathan wanted to give his fans a nice show. So John Carlin reprised Willie, and they had Barnabas locked in the coffin with chains, and John Carlin came out as Willie and undid the chains, and Barnabas grabbed him. That was at one of the last festivals, maybe 2008, maybe
Oh
something. It was
wow.
in LA, but yeah, it was to see him. I mean, he was a consummate actor, and just think he wanted to be a teacher, and if he hadn't gotten that phone call, his agent he said, "I have you a part." I think it was supposed to last about 3 months, and Jonathan said it was a little extra money, so he decided to delay his trip to the West Coast, and Barnabas was born, and Barnabas was. I know the writers had a lot to do with it, but also Jonathan
Yeah.
had this, spectacular interpretation of the character, and he loved the character. It was so multifaceted.
Yeah.
We were I don't want to go on, but one thing I do
I
want to
know.
say, this just occurred to me, if the people out there have seen, they should see it if they haven't seen it, the Mary O'Leary's wonderful documentary,
Yeah.
Jonathan Frid, the documentary, and he was fired by Dan Curtis, and I don't think he told too many people that happened back in the day, and coincidentally, um, the show went off the air then, before Jonathan's, well, he still had some time in his contract. But anyway, what I'm getting at is I wish he didn't want to do the sequel to House of Dark Shadows. Dan Curtis left it open for Barnabas to come back by that bat flying up at the end of House of Dark Shadows. And they wanted to bring Barnabas back, and Jonathan said, "No, I don't want to. I don't." Barnabas was a monster in the House of Dark Shadows. I don't want to play him that way. But I thought if there could have been a little give and take between him and Dan Curtis, maybe some of the writers come in and take the referee part and say, well, Barnabas was a monster when he first came on to Dark Shadows. That and the writers eventually found a way to humanize him, to make him, maybe they could have done that in a second movie if Jonathan would have agreed to do it. Um, it's just too bad that Dan Curtis. Well, I'm not going to blame Dan Curtis entirely, but it's just too bad that they couldn't have found a common area.
there's a fun story with that. Will McKinley and Nancy Jersey were telling me that Jonathan didn't necessarily tell him no. He set a price tag to knowing that they couldn't pay it. Which is fun. Which is funny to me. It's like okay. And there was an interview with that I didn't do, but Will and Nancy did at Lyndhurst, where Nancy had joked, "Could you imagine his face if they would have paid him?" which,
Yeah.
which is funny. It's like, yeah, that would have been funny if they would have paid him
Yeah.
because he couldn't have told him no then.
I
But
think I think I remember hearing about that. That was
yeah,
yeah, you're right.
oh my gosh. One of my favorite things though too with Dark Shadows is, and I always joke about this. I said, listen, if it weren't for Barnabas, Maggie Evans wouldn't have had the time of her life. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
I mean, she's dating the most bland man in Joe Haskell. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. I love Joel Carruthers, but come on now.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, she Catherine was at the right place at the right time for
Yeah.
Maggie and also for Josette.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The fact that they have Joel Carruthers' character written off to be taken off the Wincliffe is just like, I mean, he's seeing werewolves, he's seeing vampires.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, poor
I
guy.
I did a Dark Shadows music video about Joe. Yeah.
Cool.
And the last scene, it's a song by ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. And
Yeah.
the last scene that you see is his face frozen, and then I superimpose Wincliffe there. Yeah.
Is that on your channel?
I put I'll send you a link. It was on my Facebook, which is now it's probably way down. Maybe I can pin it to the top, but I can send you a link or something.
Yeah,
I
please
have a little
do.
I have a little trouble with music videos on YouTube. They take the music off, and I
Yeah.
heard there's a way to get around that, but I mainly put them up on my music videos up on Facebook groups now. But
Yeah,
I'll send you a link.
YouTube can be a pain in the ass. It
Yeah.
really can be. And listen, I've been on here 8 years. It can be a pain. It's okay. Um, so, oh my gosh, Guy, man. First of all, is there anything you want to add before we go? I know I've been keeping you here for a while.
And I've been yakking. No, yeah. No, I just I'm really honored to be here, and thanks for asking me.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to maybe joining you again, even Saturday. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful for all the fans of Dark Shadows that are popping up. It's very encouraging. Us in our old age, we used to imagine we'll be on after the actors have all passed, except maybe like Sharon or David Hennessy. We'll be on the stage in our rocking chairs talking about, yeah, I remember when Jonathan Frid did this or Joan Bennett said that.
That's a question for you, Guy. I have for you about the animated adult animation series. Is there somebody you think should play Barnabas? You'd like to hear voicing?
Well, I have a good friend that he can do the voices of John. He can do Jonathan Frid as Barnabas. He can do Jonathan Frid as Jonathan Frid. He can do Julia. He can do Roger. He can do Reverend Trask, and that's my friend Daryl Schaefer. I don't know if you ever seen any of his videos. I would I would hope that eventually he would put them up on. They were shown at the festivals,
Cool.
but if you're talking about like a voiceover artist, um, I can't think of anybody except Jonathan Frid himself.
Yeah.
Or I would like to hear, and not in a comical way, because Daryl's videos were very comical, but in a serious way, as close to Jonathan Frid's voice as you can get. Of course, now they can do that with AI, so who knows what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's very true. They can't do that with AI. It's
Yeah.
crazy, man. First of all, I want to thank you, Guy, for joining me. It's been a lot of fun talking to you about Dark Shadows. I look forward to seeing you Saturday with Patrick and Alan. That'll
Okay.
be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Stick around here before you go. I'm
Sure.
going to leave a lot of links in the description box here. Hold on.
Okay.